Shedeur Sanders was definitely the most anticipated preseason debut of this year, and that's kind of wild considering there was literally a quarterback taken first overall, and matter of fact, 5 quarterbacks taken before Shedeur, including one that the Browns took before him. Still, Shedeur is a huge name, and we finally got to see him in live NFL action and got a chance to see that really hectic Browns quarterback room. All eyes, for good reason, were on Shedeur and Cleveland, and it's hard to blame fans. The Browns did only have 2 quarterbacks play in week 1 of the preseason against the Panthers, those being Shedeur, who started, and then it was Tyler Huntley who replaced him late in the 3rd quarter. All in all, it was a pretty good performance for Shedeur, especially once the defensive starters did come out of the game for Carolina. Shedeur ended up throwing 14 of 23 for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also rushed 4 times for 19 yards. Now, it's hard to put much stock into a preseason game, but I feel like Shedeur showed enough that he probably deserves a roster spot, wherever that may be on the depth chart. There's still plenty of time to go in the preseason, and Cleveland is a very crowded quarterback room. But it was a solid start for Shedeur, and maybe a sign of what he could do in the pros at some point. Shedeur Sanders showed some pretty good flashes during week 1 of the preseason. The Panthers played their starters for the first 3 drives of the game, so let's start there. The first drive was a quick 3-and-out. Not much going on. Shedeur took what he had and went underneath and didn't get flustered. He hit Caden Davis on a little curl route on 3rd down, and it was just short, and Cleveland punted away. The next drive, though, he did a little bit more. Shedeur took a deep shot down the right sideline to Deontay Johnson, who I'm now learning is on the Browns, but Deontay fell, and the ball was heading out of bounds anyways. We did then see Shedeur use his legs a bit for the first time on a 3rd down. The pressure came in immediately, and he escaped to the right side and picked up a first. That's just solid awareness, and he slid like he should. Now, unfortunately, he didn't have the best display on the next set of chains. He had a bad miss trying to go to Dylan Sampson while on the run away from pressure on 2nd down. Then on 4th down, it was probably the worst play he had during his debut. But I do see both sides of it, so it's a 4th and 2, and the Browns are going for it. Why not? It's the preseason. Yes, he has a couple of guys breaking that maybe are open on the left side of the field, but it's a corner blitz, and the Browns line is just nowhere to be found. That's really a tough spot for a quarterback to be in. He's pressured immediately. He does run backwards, like it's Madden. It's not great, but look, it's a 4th down, and throwing it away just does nothing here. So he's trying to keep the play alive by any means necessary. Regardless, though, just a pretty bad play altogether. The Browns didn't move the ball much the next drive. There seemed to be some sort of miscommunication on 3rd down with Shedeur trying to get it to Sal Cannella. The Browns then punted, but it was actually muffed, and Cleveland got it back. 2 plays later, Shedeur threw his first touchdown to Caden Davis. It's a little play action, and he rolls out to the right, and I think Shedeur puts it in a really good spot in between 2 defenders, and there's a 3rd one close by. That was the start for Shedeur Sanders against that Panthers starting defense, at least mostly from what I can tell, which was easily the worst in the league last year. Now, while Shedeur struggled at times against the starters, he ended up playing well against the Panthers backups in the preseason, which I will say that alone shows that he can at least play at a high enough level to be on a roster. On his 4th drive of the game, I really like this 3rd down pickup. Shedeur is in the back of his own end zone, and the offensive line just gets blown by a 4-man rush, but he stands tall and hangs in there and makes a good throw to Gage LeVarden, who found some space in coverage. I really do like the pocket awareness here. Shedeur is definitely used to getting pressured with how bad that offensive line was at Colorado. He wasn't much of a runner in college, but he did what he had to, and that looks to be the same in the pros so far. Here he is taking off after a bootleg and just running for a near 1st down after a pump fake. Shedeur even got his hands dirty a little bit on 3rd and 1 and got it. I wish we had a better angle of this 2nd and 13 here. Shedeur stands in the pocket well, but it's just not a great pass, it seems, to LeVarden. Like, this ball really has a chance to get picked. I can't tell if the receiver kind of slows down on the route or if Shedeur is just kind of behind, and honestly, it's just tough to stay with the angle. But the next drive, this is definitely my favorite play from Shedeur in the game. He misses his man, definitely by a little bit, but Luke Floria makes a great one-handed catch. The Browns pick up the rush pretty well, but the right tackle gets pushed in. Shedeur gets away to the right, and with the rusher coming loose, is able to put the ball in a good enough spot and give his guy a chance in between a bunch of defenders here. I like the awareness, and the throw in that spot is good enough, but what a catch. Then Shedeur got his 2nd touchdown of the game soon after. First of all, what a block here in pass protection by Amani Marshall. It gives Shedeur just enough time time to hit Caden Davis, who's breaking insanely open. Now, again, he's a tad behind, but Davis adjusted really well and was able to snag it. But now on to the second half. The Browns start off with back-to-back 3-and-outs. Shedor's a little behind on an out route to chase Coda. He misses this open throw to Brendan Bates while trying to avoid getting sacked in his own end zone. So not great plays, but Shedeur did end his last drive with a touchdown. The biggest gain was him finding Bates for a 23-yard pickup. It's a good find, and then the Browns turned to Tyler Huntley to close it out as the Browns won 30-10. Honestly, it was some good and some bad for Shedeur, and that's what you'd expect from a rookie quarterback, especially one that came in the 5th round. It's safe to say that the Browns quarterback situation is pretty bizarre. Shedeur Sanders was 4th on the Browns depth chart entering their first preseason game, but ended up being the starter because of injuries. I mean, I'd say that's a pretty lucky break when you're in an open quarterback competition. But let's be for real here. There's a long way to go. The expected starter is Joe Flacco, a guy that we definitely don't need to see play in the preseason at all at 40 years old. If you remember, he had that hot stretch in 2023 with Cleveland after going 4-1 and won comeback player of the year, and now after a year with the Colts, he's back. And yeah, he's probably the best quarterback on the roster. But are the Browns really competing and trying to win games this year, or are they really just focused on the future? We can probably assume it's the future. So while Flacco definitely makes sense for week 1, I'd assume there's no way that he's actually starting the rest of the season. And there's a reason that the Browns have gone out and acquired so many quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett currently sits as the 2nd string after the Browns traded for him from the Eagles this offseason. I mean, after all, this guy is a Super Bowl champion, but in all seriousness, he definitely didn't make the most of his time with the Steelers after they took him in the 1st round. He's dealing with a hamstring injury and ended up missing week 1 of the preseason, as did Dylan Gabriel, who the Browns drafted before Shedeur Sanders. Gabriel was a 3rd round pick and is listed higher on the depth chart ahead of Shedeur. Clearly, the Browns preferred him anyway since they drafted him first too. Tyler Huntley then draws in as QB5 after he was signed literally less than a week before week 1 of the preseason. He has started games in the past and even made a Pro Bowl for whatever reason, but clearly was just signed to chew up some preseason snaps because of injuries. And that leaves the one and only quarterback we haven't brought up yet, Deshaun Watson, who, yes, is still on the Browns, but will likely miss the entire 2025 season after he ruptured his Achilles again last year. Now, if you remember, he is still on that 5-year, $230 million fully guaranteed deal that the Browns idiotically gave him after trading for him in 2022, but that all ends after the 2026 season. So, Browns fans, the end is near. The Browns are just in a rough spot, and frankly, that's because of their own really dumb decision making. It seems like Deshaun Watson will never actually play for the Browns again, and that it's time to move on and find a quarterback for the future that can actually play. They really do have a bunch of different options now, and Cleveland really only needs one of them to work. If another guy can show some flashes, then cool, trade away either Shedeur or Gabriel and get something back. There's going to be a ton of scrutiny around the Browns and Shedeur Sanders, regardless of how he plays or how things turn out. But honestly, it's going to be really interesting and fun to watch.